Hello. Uh, Looking at this album, not actually secondhand, technically. Well, not just technically, not secondhand at all. It's I bought this new about 10 or 11 years ago. Sorry, I'm clearing my throat, and I know it's annoying, but it's winter, and it seems in winter when you've got a kid living with you, it's like a perpetual cold, or kind of like you're fighting off a cold for the whole winter, like a slightly runny nose or slight kind of tickle in your throat. This is Casualties of Cool. You can see there. That is the name of the project, or the band, or the say the artist name if it was found in a record shop, and it's also the name of the album. Casualties of Cool is a duo, primarily consisting of Mr. Devin Townsend, noted Canadian rock metal artist, and a lesser known vocalist. Her name is Shay, don't know how to pronounce it, Aimee Dorval, female. So you've got the male and the female vocals together. Primarily Che. The female vocals I'd say probably make up a bit more of the total. There they are, Baldy, Devin, and Che. CH apostrophe, or not apostrophe, CHE, but the E's got kind of like a macron or a inflection above it. What? Not a macron. What's the other word? Okay. Anyway, it's not really important. Now this I have here is the is it a special edition? I'm not sure. Is there anything that's not a special edition? This was released back in 2014, and it was released in kind of a unique. Well, I guess not really, because nowadays it's so common. But it was, what was the website? Like Kickstarter or not GoFundMe, because GoFundMe is more of a charity. What was that? What's the other one? Indiegogo, was that one? There used to be quite a lot of them back about 10 years ago, but you don't really hear about them as much nowadays. It's where an artist would, how do you put this? Kind of make a submission to this website and saying, well, okay, I am such and such person, and I have a plan to make this album, or I've already made this album, and I don't want to fund it, or I can't fund it myself, and so to produce the physical, like the CDs or the records, I'm going to do a GoFundMe type thing. Is that it? GoFundMe. What? What did I say? Kickstarter. Okay, well, you get the point. Where people pledge money and therefore will receive the product eventually. It's not immediate, or at least I don't think it's immediate, because the artist takes the money that's pledged and then uses that to fund the project. So like I said, some have already been completed, some haven't been completed at all, and they use the money to actually, record the music. But I think in this case, he had already made the music. They just wanted the money to kind of produce the physical media. And there's usually like tiers. Like if you're willing to pay like a couple of $100, I think on this one, you could actually have a one-on-one Zoom call with Devin and have like kind of a half-hour conversation. If you paid, say, $250, you get the album, maybe something, you understand what I mean. I'm explaining things that I'm sure everyone understands as seen before. I don't remember all the different tiers. I got the kind of the basic tier, which was a deluxe version of the album, which is double disc, which is the album itself, and then the second disc is a kind of like outtakes and bits and pieces from other things he was doing at the time. I'll talk about that in a moment. But it was also supposed to come with a signed postcard. But what happened was So I paid for this. When did I pay? It was 2014. I was living in South Korea at the time, and I paid for it, I think, early 2014. Let's say March. And then, knowing this, they said, this would be shipping in about maybe 6 to 9 months. And so later in, let's say late 2014, it was definitely 2014 because I was still living in an apartment that I left in January 2015. No, December, Jesus, this is not important, but I left in December 2014. So it was definitely between sometime in 2014. They shipped it out. Now, not disparaging the Korean postal system, it's actually quite efficient and cheap, but it, for whatever reason, it didn't turn up. The CD didn't turn up. And, they would send you updates, the Devin's management or the whoever would say, okay, we've sent them out, you should be receiving them in the next week, you should have got it already. And by kind of a few weeks had passed, I still hadn't got it, and I realized, okay, well, something's happened here. So I got in contact with whoever it said to get in contact with, and he or she, whoever, said, okay, we'll send you another one. And they did send another one, and it did turn up. But the bummer is that it turned up just the CD without the signed postcard. And you might think, well, who gives a shit? But Devin Townsend is one of my favorite artists of all time. Someone who whose work I've loved since 2000, I think was when I first heard it. And who I've seen live in concert, and who's someone who I admire his work deeply. And so the idea of kind of getting a signed memento from the man himself was kind of quite something I was looking forward to, because I don't really have that many things like that. In fact, I've got one thing signed. I got when I saw Opeth back in 2006, I got my ticket stub signed by Mikael Akefab after the show. That's the only signature type memorabilia I have of any band. But not that, again, I'm not really that interested, super duper interested in having that stuff. But still, I paid for it as well. Anyway, I cut my losses. I thought, well, I got the CD. I didn't email them then go say, where's my signed postcard? I just thought, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be. And so, yes, the CD turned up and I listened to it, and it's certainly different than anything he had done previously. With, I guess you could put some exception and say, well, it has elements of Key and Ghost in it, but this is much more, I guess what we would describe this music as country, alt country, ambient, bluesy. But I'd say country music is kind of the primary. I think he described it as haunted Johnny Cash music, haunted Johnny Cash songs, which I could see that. I understand what he was getting at with that. And I'm not the biggest country music fan, to be honest, but this album is pretty great. It took a while for me to get into. Not to say it's super deep or anything like that. It's just that I had been, as I talked about, I think in my last video I uploaded, because I just got another Devin Townsend CD recently. The stuff that he produced and he was most known for through the late 90s, 2000s, and early 2010s was metal, kind of an industrial metal, heavy metal, alternative rock, with some ambient electronic stuff in there as well. But certainly, if you're looking for Devin Townsend CDs in a music shop, if you could find one that still exists, he is filed under the heavy metal section. Even though a lot of his albums, you could say, well, that's not heavy metal. Like Ghost, something like Ghost is in no way heavy metal. But just like Opeth can release an album like Damnation, which is also in no way metal, and still be filed under the heavy metal section. With this was This was, I think, this album has got the most individual sound, its own thing of his work. If you look at all his work, and if we kind of separate Strapping Young Lad, but even that, actually, I wouldn't even separate. If you take what he's done from Ocean Machine through the stuff he did in the early, his solo stuff like A Physicist and Infinity, and then the stuff he did with Strapping Young Lad, and then even the Devin Townsend project stuff like Addicted and Key, and as varied as all that stuff is, it has this certain signature identity that comes back to everything he does, Devin Townsend, for better or for worse. And then even subsequently after that, the rest of the stuff he did with the Devin Townsend project, which I talked about last time, and the stuff like Empath and Puzzles and Snuggles, as weird as those things were, like Puzzles, I remember before that was released, he really talked extensively of how different and how unusual and blah blah that was, and it was, I can understand, but it still had the Devin Townsend signature. And it's not just because it's his voice or something like that. There's a certain I don't know, I don't know enough about musical theory to explain it, but the way that someone writes chord progressions, or maybe it's just the tone of his guitar, or the production techniques he likes to use, or whatever, I don't know. But it's identifiable through all of his work. And I'm not going to say it's completely absent in this one, but I feel this has the most different sound of anything he did. And I don't mean as in it's complete just because it's country or something like that. It's more than that. It's like he has resisted using certain guitar techniques or certain vocal effects or something that he does. And maybe it's also the inclusion of Aimee Dorval, because she takes a primary role, because he's worked with female singers before, like what's her name, Annika, the Dutch lady who sung with him together on Addicted was the main one, but also a lot of other stuff. Epic Cloud, she was on that a bit. This just feels like it was kind of he tried to leave a lot of that stuff out of his approach to this. And because of that, maybe it took me a little bit longer to get into or to appreciate. But I do appreciate it. It's a great album. I saw it described as being in the waiting room. Fuck, I can't think of the thing now. What was it? Being in the waiting room for a trip to some alien planet or something like that. Was that what it was? It hit me more when I heard it, and I thought, I'm going to remember that. Now when I go to recall it, I can't remember. Something to do with being in a waiting room, something to do with aliens, and something to do with space travel. And I'm not saying it sounds like interstellar or sci-fi or anything like that at all. It sounds quite earthy in both senses of the word. But it has a certain mood or feeling to it, atmosphere to it, that does feel a little bit otherworldly. The album itself is made up of 15 songs. Songs that stand out that I really like. Daddy, I guess. I think that was a single, or at least the one they released like kind of a video for. The Code. I remember that. I kind of got an instantaneous like of that song. Haida, Forgive Me, and Broken. Those three songs flow together very well. There's this part, I can't remember which part it was. Let's see if I can see in the lyrics, where he uses this, is there no booklet? No. I always thought there was a booklet. Maybe I imagined it. Okay, there's no booklet. Well, where's the liner notes? No, there's definitely no booklet in there. Look. And look at that picture. See, this is what I'm saying about this otherworldly. So that kind of looks like it's on the surface of the moon. You could say it's a black and white photo taken in the desert, who knows. But maybe it's this photo here that gives me that feeling. Now, apparently there was kind of like a concept, a story behind it. Now, I'll put it here. Let's see if I can find it. The concept, it says, Townsend described the story as being about a traveler that is lured to a sentient planet, which feeds on the traveler's fear. The traveler finds solace in an old radio, which I guess is that one there, and later an old phonograph. Eventually, he confronts his own fear and his force of will to not submit to the fear. That's a powerful thing, isn't it? The force of will to not submit to the fear. Liberates a woman held inside the planet, which also frees his own soul. Well, okay. Not sure I picked up any of that from listening to it, but I didn't really listen to the lyrics deeply. Now we have this over here, which is a bonus disc. And you see that kind of looks like a ghostly figure, an apparition. Because apparently some of the songs from this were taken from the Ghost 2, what do you want to call it? Sessions. Where he made Ghost. Ghost was released in 2011, from memory. And then he was going to do a follow-up, or he recorded more songs during those sessions that he was going to release as a separate album to Ghost. So songs in the key of Ghost, in that feeling, kind of very soft and ambient, and a lot of flute is used. So some of those are featured on here as well. But some of them are taken outtakes from this. So for example, Fight was apparently the original version of Flight, for whatever that means. So yeah, I'm sure there was some sort of liner notes or lyrics with this. What's that? Like a dead rose, a moth, which is a theme that's going to come back around soon, because he's just had if you follow his career, he just had the Moth live concert, which was streamed. He performed that in the Netherlands, and apparently he's going to release it as an album, not the actual live thing, but the album version, recorded version, later this year. Although it's already July and I haven't heard anything else about that, so I'm not sure if that's going to keep that timeline. There's another moth there. And then, like I said, is the Ghost. And we have a planet. And is that a moth flying away? Yes, or a butterfly. Is that a butterfly? Is it a moth or a butterfly? Well, to me, it looks like a moth, because butterflies their wings are more open. And yes, the planet's got a hole in it. Planet Destroyer. Planet Smasher from Ziltoid, if you heard that album that he did. So yeah, it's just a very interesting, different, moody, what other words, adjectives could I use to describe it? No, actually I won't say that. It's a good album, and I recommend it. And if you're a fan of Devin Townsend, I certainly recommend it. If someone who's never, that's the thing is sometimes with an artist, you think to yourself, well, am I viewing this? Well, I am. Of course you are. I'm viewing this within the context of the rest of his work, because I'm so familiar with what he did before that, and also subsequently after that. This kind of, I approach this and hear this in a different way than someone who, say, just picked this up and had no idea who Devin Townsend was and never heard any of his other stuff. If they heard this, what would they think about it? I know that my wife quite enjoyed some of the songs on this, because we had this in the car when we were living in Korea, in the CD would be played like for about a month. You'd put a CD in the CD player and kind of let it play over and over as you're driving around day to day. And I remember she made a few comments that she liked a few songs there, and she certainly doesn't know who Devin Townsend is, or heard what she might have heard of his previous work from me telling her to listen to it, but she wouldn't have any memory of it whatsoever. So I think this album does really stand by itself in every sense of the word, like as in among his work, but also as someone approaching it with completely fresh ears who is not in any way familiar with his work. Some of the other artists or musicians, so Devin Townsend, guitars, bass, vocals, keyboards, Aimee Dorval, lead vocals, acoustic guitar. Morgan Agren was the drummer. I hear Devin Townsend talking about him a lot. He's a Swedish drummer. I think he's like some prog band, but I'm not 100% sure. Kat Eppel played the flute. She also played the flute on Ghost. And she was in the 80s, I think it was in the early mid 80s, maybe even the late 70s, kind of new agey sounding band called the Emerald Web, which I've listened to and I quite like, especially the album Cat's Paw. Who else we got? Jorgen Munkby, saxophones. Dave Young, additional keyboards. Now Dave Young played with him in the Devin Townsend project. And also he did some bits and pieces on some of the later Strapping Young Lad releases as well. So he's someone who's worked with him a lot. Mike St. John, also someone who's worked with a lot. He did some drumming. So yeah, not much else to say about it really. And I've kind of blathered a lot there, as I tend to do with these videos. But it's not secondhand. I bought it new from a pledge, GoFundMe, Kickstarter, Indiegogo type project. I recommend it. Whether you know Devin Townsend or don't know him, it's a good listen. And I'm not sure if there was ever a booklet. Maybe the booklet was the thing that was supposed to be signed that I never got. No, that wouldn't make sense. Why would they ship that separately? Anyway, we'll leave it there. Casualties of Cool. Casualties of Cool. Cool. Now, some people pronounce cool as cool. I think Australians do that. They say sometimes, hear some Australians pronounce those OOL sounds as the ool, like fool and pool. Let's go in the swimming pool. You fool. So there was a famous Australian racing car driver called Peter Brock. And he used to do some TV commercials, road safety ads here in New Zealand. And his saying was, only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. The 2-second rule is don't follow behind someone with closer than a 2-second kind of delay. You know what I mean? Like if someone passes a marker, it should take you more than 2 seconds to pass that marker behind them. So basically don't tailgate people. And but yes, his pronunciation, I always remember when I was a kid, was he said, fool. Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. You know, a lot of people kind of can't tell the difference between Australian accents and New Zealand accents. Like for me, as a New Zealander, I can very easily tell the difference. And that's one of them. But the other one is they do the like for like I'd say banana, and they say banana, dance, answer, and then the e. So I'd say the number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they say 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway, how do we get to Australians? I don't know. Oh, that's right. Cool. Casualties of Cool. See you later.